Majdan Sielec in the Lublin region in Poland, a small village located about 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It was here in a field that the residents made an unusual discovery.
Dzisiaj z moim ojcem pojechaliśmy w pole.
My father and I went to the field to collect the rest of the hay, and when we got there, we saw a white object. It looked like a drone to us, so we immediately decided to call the police.
I od razu postanowiliśmy zadzwonić na policję.
The object fell 500 meters from the buildings. Fortunately, no one was hurt. According to the Polish Ministry of National Defense, the drone could have been used for smuggling. But the prosecutor's office in Zamość, which is conducting the investigation, does not rule out that the drone could have been a military drone. We also admit the possibility that it was a military drone, given that there is a war going on beyond our eastern border in Ukraine. We can rule out with a high degree of certainty that it was a combat drone. An explosives expert was present at the scene and ruled out the possibility that it contained explosives. In addition, witnesses noticed Russian inscriptions and camera-like elements on the drone. Probably Russian. I think I saw Cyrillic inscriptions there. On the internet, you can see a comparison of the remains of the drone from the village of Majdan Sielce with a drone called Gerbera, mass-produced in Russia since last year, made of plywood and foam, and manufactured in 3 versions: combat, reconnaissance, and decoy. And it is this drone that Russia is using to attack Ukraine. In the coming week, an expert opinion will be sought to examine the wreckage and provide us with answers as to what type of vehicle it is, what type of drone it is, what it was used for, and where it was manufactured. Further steps will be taken to determine where and how it ended up in Poland, whether it crossed the border, and what it was used for. And this is Rembertów in Warsaw. An explosion occurred here yesterday at the military training ground. 2 people, civilians, were injured. They entered the military area despite the prohibition of entry. The Mazovian Military Police Unit, together with a sapper patrol, is conducting operations in Warsaw Rembertów, where 2 civilians were injured as a result of an explosion of an explosive device. They entered the military training ground despite clearly marked prohibition on entry. The origin of the explosive device and the detailed circumstances of the incident will be the subject of further investigation. The military police will not only investigate how the civilians entered the training ground, but also whether it was sufficiently secured and properly marked. Now Majdan near Zamość. 2 weeks ago, Ośliny near Łuków. Both places are connected by drones that violated Polish airspace. It looks like a Russian provocation. The drone in Ośliny exploded while some European politicians were talking to U.S. President Donald Trump. The drone in Majdan crashed 3 days after Polish President Karol Nawrocki's visit to the White House. These actions are clearly related to a desire to recognize and record signatures on achievements. Russia has been doing this intensively for years when it comes to the airspace of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Both incidents clearly show that something is clearly wrong with the defense of Polish airspace. What is happening with the drone detection and neutralization system? This system was acquired when I was Minister of National Defense, the Sky Control System. From press reports, we learned that the current leadership of the Ministry of National Defense has decided not to modernize this system. This system must be modernized because changes in this field are happening very quickly. However, the government has other priorities. A year and a half ago, Donald Tusk announced that together with Germany, he would build a European Iron Dome to protect Poland from Russian missiles and drones. We will also cooperate within the European Sky Shield initiative, and I have no problem with the fact that Germany was the main initiator of this initiative. Polish Prime Minister Tusk spoke beautifully, arguing that this program would ensure our security, but the topic seems to have died a natural death. It is said that the Iron Dome may cover Poland in about 10 years, but this is also uncertain. Let us recall that Poland had a chance to get the most modern American missile defense shield during George Bush's presidency. At that time, Prime Minister Donald Tusk succumbed to Putin's blackmail and led to the Americans withdrawing from the project. The fact that this missile defense system would be built in Poland also increases a number of risks and threats for the Polish side. As a result of these actions, Poland lost access to the most effective security measure. From time to time, there are violations of Polish airspace. When during the Law and Justice Party's term in office, a Russian missile was found in Poland, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz thundered, demanding the following from the Polish Minister of National Defense at the time, Mariusz Błaszczak. If Minister Mariusz Błaszczak did not know that a Russian missile was flying over Poland, then this is a huge scandal. If he knew and did nothing about it, it is a blatant irresponsibility and playing with Poland's security. Either way, it is disqualifying. Resign. Now that he is the Minister of National Defense himself, the radicalism has somehow ended. Politicians from the ruling camp claim, as if nothing had happened, that we have to get used to Russian drones. Our border must be protected against the intrusion of foreign drones. They will fly in here, but, well, thank you for your honesty. They should only fly a few kilometers from the border. Your point of view depends on where you sit, and this old rule applies here too. When in August 2023, a Belarusian helicopter violated Polish airspace and remained there for 10 minutes, Radosław Sikorski thundered that it should have been shot down. It didn't matter that this could have led to a full-scale war with Russia. If those helicopters flew on the Polish side for 10 minutes, then there was plenty of time to shoot them down. But do you think they should have been shot down? Well, what else do you do? And if Wagner's group crossed the Polish border, what would you do with them? So when the civic platform is in opposition, it demands that the helicopters be shot down. But when it is in power, drones are too much of a challenge. This is no joke. These are not trivial matters, because this is about human lives. This is about the security of our homeland. So we must demand an explanation from the Minister of National Defense as to why, above all, this drone was not shot down. So far, we still do not know the answer to this question. The situation in the world is very dynamic. The United States, which changed the name of its Department of Defense to the Department of War, has made it clear that it is prepared for the worst. It is time for the Polish government to also be prepared and take action. But further dangerous incidents and crashed drones on Polish territory expose the weakness of the ruling coalition. It was one of the largest, most concentrated attacks by Russian criminals on Ukraine. Last night, more than 800 drones and dozens of missiles were launched. At least 3 people were killed, including an infant. Dozens of civilians were injured. For the first time since the outbreak of the war, the Kremlin has struck a Ukrainian government building in Kiev. Poland scrambled fighter jets overnight to patrol the airspace. Crossings on the Dnieper River, houses, apartment buildings, and commercial buildings in almost all districts. For the first time since the outbreak of the war, the Ukrainian government building in Kiev has also been targeted. Each new attack is even more outrageous than the last. The fact that the drone struck the government district is further proof that Russia has no intention of stopping. It terrifies me, but what terrifies me even more is that they are striking residential buildings and that people are dying. 3 people in Kiev, including a mother with a baby just a few months old. Every day, the Kremlin provides evidence that its declarations of openness to peace talks are purely cynical and brazen diplomatic games. It seems that Russia is not seeking peace and is not ready to negotiate. We call on our partners to help close our skies. Let's tighten sanctions against Russia. Let's create a security guarantee system that will help stop the enemy. Ukraine, like Europe and the United States, agreed to negotiations. President Donald Trump joined the diplomatic mission, but it was not enough. It seems, therefore, that the fate of any agreement is sealed for today.
Nobody's done what we've done in 7 months, a little more than 7 months. When you think of it, we stopped 7 wars. And the war that I thought was going to be the easiest is probably the most difficult. That's the Ukraine and Russia. I thought that would be easier, the relationship with President Putin, all of that. It didn't matter. It's ended up being probably the most difficult. Thank you.
U.S. President Trump has probably already made a decision on the White House's next steps towards Russia. The key issue here is not only sanctions, but also military support for Kyiv. In recent days, the U.S. president has repeatedly declared that Ukraine will receive the weapons it needs to repel Russian attacks. But that's not all. The second important area is NATO's eastern flank and American support for security in our region. As we already know, Poland will play an important role here, with the American presence not only being maintained, but perhaps even expanded. We talked about a large project that would also involve a kind of special fort, or a place where not only American forces would develop, but which would also be a place for economic development. The Polish president, who discussed in great detail at the White House the issue of American involvement in our region, will visit Vilnius tomorrow, and then Helsinki. Lithuania is primarily a strategic corridor shared with Poland, the Suwałki Gap, while Finland has several hundred kilometers of land border with Russia and controls the Gulf of Finland, through which Russia's main shipping route in the Baltic Sea runs.
I think we understand the strategic importance of the Baltic area. I think we also understand that when it comes to combat, you can't have enough friends.
Given the threat posed by Russia today and actions such as the Zapad maneuvers in Belarus, which are set to begin in the coming days, Poland must adhere to a similar principle, but by building an international alliance based on real and concrete actions. The 68th edition of the Gordon Bennett Cup balloon race has begun. 24 teams took off from Metz in northeastern France. This long-distance world championship in gas ballooning is the oldest race of its kind, dating back to 1906. Hot air balloon enthusiasts, on the other hand, gathered in the Czech Republic. The aim of the competition is to cover the greatest distance from the start without any stopovers.
You launch all here at the same location, and we're standing on a podium by which all the teams will launch. And in the end, it's the team that travels the furthest will be crowned the champion of the year. And they can go north, they can go south, they can go east, west. There's lots of weather patterns here.
Each team analyzes the weather conditions and adjusts its strategy accordingly. The competitors are expected to land around September 13th.
It's a long race. It goes over a few days, so everything has to align.
Balloonists from all over Europe gathered in Hradec Králové to celebrate the 800th anniversary of the city's founding. At least 80 balloons took to the skies. Flying is a truly wonderful thing because it brings you into contact with nature. It allows you to regenerate and is a form of relaxation in its own way. We are one big ballooning family. According to the organizers, this is one of the largest events of its kind in Europe and in the entire history of independent Czechia, so it is to be entered into the Czech Book of Records.